Alright guys, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back to the channel, man. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a benching tip that I've personally implemented and it has helped me so much. So I really want to share it with you guys. Now, before we get started though, if you guys are new here, I would really appreciate if you do hit the subscribe button. And without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So the one tip I want to share with you guys, summarized or simply put, is basically arching your back during a bench press. Now, beforehand, I used to arch my back, but I didn't really know exactly how to do it and the proper cues to think about to get a proper arch and to actually help your bench press. So one thing, I know a lot of people, including myself actually, bench very close in terms of their arm length. So that's what I used to do. I used to bench pretty close, but ever since I've widened up my grip a little bit, I felt some shoulder pain or shoulder instability at least when I do heavier weights with a wider grip. And so the way to fix that is basically to tighten up your lats and really engage your lats in the bench press. And the best way to do it that I found is to implement a proper arch in your back. Now, the way I like to set up and the way I set up every single time I bench press now is I start by trying to put the highest point of my traps on the bench press itself. So I really try to get up and dig my traps into the bench press. And then from there, instead of lowering my back and lowering my hips at the same time, I try to keep my back at that same level. So when I put my traps all the way up on the bench and I really dig them in there, I try to keep my upper back in the same position. The only thing I try to do is lower my hips, but I try to maintain that upper back position that I developed when I was first setting up. Now, the way I do that, the way I try to do it, I'm still obviously practicing and everybody has room to grow and room to improve. But the way I try to implement it is I move my hips down and I try to tuck them underneath me almost. So I try to kind of move my butt and my hips closer to my lats, if that makes sense, or closer up to my shoulders as much as I can. Obviously it's not possible, but I try to think about that. I try to kind of imagine it and implement it in my head, and then I obviously try to execute it physically. Now, arching your back accomplishes several different things. One, you could establish much better leg drive, and then two, it really forces your body to engage the lats and stabilize the shoulder basically. So if you guys are struggling a little bit with the bench press or trying to figure out how to bench properly, I highly recommend trying to implement this tip right here. So I'll try to demonstrate it here so you guys can get a better look of what I'm trying to say, but without any weight. So when you're bench pressing, a lot of people simply don't have an arch, right? So when they're benching, they're going like this, okay? Now notice how the shoulder is going back, and then when they come up, it's leaning forward, right? So I'll try to actually do it this way. So they're benching at the bottom position, their back is nice, it's nice and tight, but as soon as they start to push, they let go of that tightness in their lats and they start to round or protract their scapula, right? And so you lose all that tightness, and then when you go back down to do another rep, you're tightening your lats back up, you're moving your scapula, you're basically retracting and protracting your scapula the whole time you're benching. And over time, that could cause several different problems. It could cause tears in your pecs, your biceps. It could cause impingement in the shoulder. So what you want to do is really stabilize your lats, right, from here. And the way you do that, when I try to squeeze my lats, you guys can do it actually when you're watching the video as well, is when you're squeezing your lats, you're naturally going to start arching your back as well, your lower back. So you want to arch it, tighten up your lats, and from there you basically want to push. Now, if I didn't have this arch, I would go like this, right? So I would be tight and then loose, tight and then loose. Once you have that lower back arch, you're nice and tight basically the whole way through, right? And so it really helps keep your lats nice and tight. Now, from the side, I also want you guys to see something very important. So anatomically speaking, the way to stabilize your scapula is to retract and depress, right? So when you're tightening up your lats, you're naturally doing that. Your lats naturally do that movement to your scapula. So once you tighten it up, you're naturally retracting and depressing your scapula, right? So when you're here, you're nice and tight. You have that lower arch, and then when you press, you want to maintain that tightness in your lats. So what you don't want to do is go here, you're nice and tight, and what you don't want to do is lose that tightness. Once you go for that second rep again, you're trying to maintain or regain that tightness that you initially had, but now again, you might cause impingement and other shoulder issues or rotator cuff issues. So make sure throughout the whole bench press, really try to focus on maintaining that arch, keeping your butt down, keeping your butt and your feet nice and grounded, and then keeping your lats nice and tight and your shoulders back. So for me personally, implementing the arch properly has helped me with all those different things. As you practice, as you get more practice with it, obviously you don't have to think about it as much. You're naturally just gonna go into a bench press, get nice and tight, put your traps up on the bench, and then from there, you're just gonna start benching basically, right? So, and then you're naturally gonna stabilize your shoulder muscle. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. And you can start focusing on pushing the weight and getting heavier and stronger. Now, I don't wanna bore you guys with too much information, but obviously there's some other tips that you guys might need to implement as well, such as leg drive and keeping your elbows in instead of flaring them out. Everybody's bench press is going to be a little bit different, and everybody's anatomy is going to be different as well. So you got to figure out the bench press that's best for you. It might be very, very uncomfortable, as it was for me in the beginning, but as you practice more, as you start to feel, you know, how to get set up properly for yourself, is gonna feel really good, and your bench press is gonna get a lot stronger and a lot more stable. Now, one more tip before I go actually. So the bench press that you use can have a tremendous impact on your bench as well. So what I use is the Rep Fitness FB5000 with the wide pad. The wide pad is amazing because personally I have an imbalance where my right shoulder tends to kind of depress and retract a little bit more than my left one. It might be mobility issues, it might just be my anatomy, whatever it is, I've always had that imbalance. Now with the wide pad, it fixes a lot of those problems. Both of my shoulders, both of my scapulas are on the bench press, and one is not dropping or one is not sagging off, and it helps fix my imbalances. So if you guys can get a wider pad or at least a full-size pad for your bench press, it would be optimal. Those really narrow pads are really not that good for scapular stabilization. So if you could get something like the bench press, which I will link in the description below, go ahead, feel free to get it. And now if you go to a commercial gym, hopefully your gym has you know, some good benches, wide enough benches, but you want to make sure that at least you can get both traps on the bench. And if your pad is wide enough, your bench is wide enough, hopefully you could get the scapula on there as well, both of them, so that way you have something to push off of. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to drop a like, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and inshallah I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.